because Frankie is racist. That's the narrative going around the school. They give her nicknames like Halling Racist instead of Hollingsworth, which is like, okay, that's real clunky. But they also coined Ku Klux Fran, which...
Honestly, I love that.
Grab some popcorn and stick around. We've got some garbage to talk about.
Hi, Erin.
Hi, Zax.
So, we're back with Degrassi, and, we're tackling racism again.
Again.
But this time, Degrassi took a lot longer. They spent basically all of season 2 with this arc, unlike Sod, who got like 2.5 episodes. This time, instead of focusing on the oppressed, I guess, this time we're focusing on the oppressor. And Degrassi tries to make a statement about white privilege that misses the mark in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
And, yeah. So, basically, it starts off... So, we're going to be talking about Frankie Hollingsworth. If you remember, her brother, Hunter Hollingsworth, is from,
The video game club?
Yes, from the video... I just had to stop streaming. Is from the... Yeah, from our gamer video. And... So this family is just problematic. We have lots of more issues to talk about with Degrassi the Next Class. But for right now, we're going to focus on Frankie Hollingsworth. She is a pretty girl, popular on the volleyball team. On the volleyball team. And she's going to play against Northern Tech. They're lovingly known as the Zoo. And
we should also probably state that it's very, very clear through the show that despite trying to be very progressive, Degrassi is mostly a school for privileged white kids, and the Northern Tech is a primarily black school.
Yeah, and like that's something else too, because like Degrassi is the progressive show of the time, like, but we looked through the intro. The show only has 2 black characters, but one thing that, and I don't think this was intentional, but it was just very funny to see. So, like, the intro is, like, a bunch of, like, Instagram posts and, like, collages of the cast and different things, but they make sure that, like, there's only, like, 2 black characters.
Tiny and Shay.
Tiny and Shay, and they keep like putting the same 2 people in like every frame, so it looks like
it's not every frame, but it's really common. Yeah,
it's just a lot. Like, oh, there they are again. It just made me think of those like diversity brochures that like colleges would put out and stuff to just be like, they're here, believe us.
Look at them, they're here.
Yeah. So anyway, that's like a minor thing. But Northern Tech pulls a prank, and I don't understand pranks. I just genuinely just don't get them. The fun of setting them, the fun of receiving them. I don't get it.
Me
but
neither.
Northern Tech, yeah, but if it's your jam, I don't know. Maybe you can let us know in the comments if these are normal pranks or not. So Northern Tech steals all of Degrassi's volleyball team's clothes, and then they pull the fire alarm. So all the school has to come to the front, but the volleyball girls are only in towels, and then Frankie's towel gets caught in the door, so everybody sees her butt for a few seconds. They then retaliate with a racist mural, and they hang it up in the school.
Yeah, so to quickly summarize the mural, Frankie decides, we need to get back at Northern Tech. And Shay is like, nah, I really don't think this is a good idea. And so Frankie does it behind Shay's back. Frankie and Shay are like co-captains of the volleyball team. And so I guess he'll put like a picture of them or something.
Yeah.
But Frankie decides to do the sign along with every single other member of the volleyball team except for Shay.
Shay is the only one with a problem.
Yeah, so the entire volleyball team goes behind Shay's back to do this mural, where they paint a bunch of, I guess, like African animals, or like typical zoo animals, like alligators and stuff on a big banner and hang it in their school. But the main contention that the Northern Tech girls have with this is they come and unfurl it and refuse to play. They sit out from the volleyball match and say that it's racist. And the reason that it's racist is because a couple of the girls were drawn as various types of monkey. The team leader specifically was drawn as a gorilla. And given that it's a majority black school, there's like a lot of history behind that, with like the depiction and referencing of black people as monkeys, and typical like old world racism phantoms haunting the modern world.
Yeah. And so they sit out the game, and now this becomes, there are lots of journeys throughout this season. A lot of people come into some sort of social consciousness in one way or another. Frankie, it was her idea to make this mural. It was her idea to depict the captain of the rival team as a gorilla. But the whole volleyball team, except for Shay, was totally complicit. In the beginning of the episode, before they even make the mural, they're making so many microaggressions. Lola, pink hair here, she says something to the effect of, they're all just really scary. They're like criminals. And then she turns to Shay and says, no offense. There's no mistaking that it's because they're black people at that point.
Yeah, it's definitely heavily insinuated.
And then when they make the mural, Shay asks, wait, did you break into their school and hang that up? And then Frankie says, no, the doors were open. Adult education classes, like we could never. And it's like, okay. So there's a lot of that coding going on throughout it. And I feel like every episode I pick on Goldie, but I think when we were watching through this like whole arc of the show, I don't know who was in charge of writing Goldie's character, but they need to do something else with their time.
They need to be fired.
This is just not this is just not it.
Yeah, so
1 minute. Yeah, you go.
May I? Okay.
Yeah.
Goldie's whole Her whole character concept is that she is a Muslim minority student who cares a lot about minority rights and anti-racism and feminism and stuff like that. She's the progressive character of the show, and she is on the volleyball team. And as you've heard us say, Shay was the only person who was against making this sign, and Goldie, fun fact, is not Shay. So Goldie participated in creating the sign.
And, when she was doing it, and that's one thing, too, they were also, reveling in it, because at one point, before Shay catches them, they're, sitting and looking at the picture, they're like, oh my gosh, how do you think they reacted when they saw it? And then Lola was like, I can just imagine the look on their faces. And Goldie also is sharing a big smile in this. She's, she has a mischievous smile when they're drawing the painting, and it's like, you're part of the feminist club, and okay, racism and feminism are two different things, but like they have similar issues going on. And if you're supposed to be the woke, basically, it's like, I don't know if it's like good or bad, but she's basically, for lack of a better word, supposed to be like the social justice warrior of the show.
Right.
So I don't know why it's okay to call them the zoo. Also,
well, it's they don't call them the zoo. Everybody else calls them the zoo.
Yeah, but I guess, but it seems like you should be aware of, like, that's, like, what we find, okay, I'm jumping ahead a bit. So, they find out Northern Tech is not going to play them, and no other team is going to play Degrassi because they're racist. At least that's the narrative going around. And Shay, first, this is a shorter arc, I guess. There's Shay's journey, Frankie's whole journey, and then Lola also has a mini journey. Goldie doesn't learn anything this whole thing, so that's good, I guess. Lola barely learns anything either. We're also cool with them all making this poster, but fine. But Shay's arc is kind of first, where her thing is, I'm not rich like you, Frankie. I don't get to just go to whatever school I want to. I need to be on my best behavior and be the best player, be the best everything if I want a chance at a scholarship. And it's like, okay, I feel ya. Go off. That's reasonable. But once this whole thing with race comes on, she's just like, well, we need to keep the season. We can't let a dumb prank war get in the way of it. But then, the more she talks to me, like, she talked with her dad about it. And this was bizarre to me. And I don't know if anyone else can relate to this. I don't know if I'm being rude, because I don't think you can really, I guess, blame ignorance. But I feel like a 15-year-old black girl should know this already. I don't know. Maybe that's wrong to assume, but her dad has a sit down with her to explain the history of black people being compared to monkeys, and how people dehumanized black people to make it okay to enslave them, and she was unaware. And it's also really, really really Black History light, because all she says is, that's messed up, and he's like, yeah, it really is.
When that conversation happened, I believe that my reaction was, it's like Shay's character just recently became black. Like, like her whole character is just like unaware of all of her racial issues. The racial issues of the group that she's a part of.
Because then, because what preceded this talk with her dad was Frankie pawns this all off onto Shay. Like, yeah, we're both co-captains, but my brother is in a psychiatric facility right now, so I have that to deal with. I can't deal with this racism stuff that I caused. You deal with it. And, I guess especially, I feel like watching it now in 2020, when I've just seen so many bad YouTuber apologies and all this stuff, where we're like, don't you people have PR teams behind you? Because the optics that Frankie goes through with all this without a PR team is literally the same thing that all the social influencers do. The same weird mistakes. It's just bad optics all around. So Shay has a sit down with the captain of Northern Tech, and the captain says, basically, they're just having you talk to me because you're black. And Shay's like, no, they really weren't racist. But she's not interested in hearing all of that, because she doesn't care about what the intentions were. The end product was a racist poster. She also brings up that, am I supposed to just be okay with this poster because he didn't mean for it to be racist? Or when people don't mean for it to be racist to try to touch my hair? Or they don't mean for it to be racist when they say, how many baby daddies do I have? She's a very interesting character to me. And it's nice that she gets, half an episode of screen time throughout. Because we gotta focus on Frankie more. I just, oh my gosh. So she's talking to her dad, and then after she talks with Northern Tech, then she goes to Frankie like, look, it's really not cool of you to have me just sort of calm down the minorities because I'm black. And then Frankie's like, that's not what was going on. And then she's like, look, I think you just need to quit the team. I think you made a mistake. You need to own up to it and quit. Frankie's boyfriend, Jonah, also tells her the same thing. Like, you made a mistake. You just gotta pick up, pack up, and move on. It's over. But Frankie doesn't feel that way. She thinks that she can fix this, and she thinks that she's thinking some really new and profound things, even though before she does what this thing she's about to do, her boyfriend says, don't you think you're being a little idealistic? Don't you think you're like really seriously minimizing the oppression that people have faced for generations? She's like, no, I think I'm gonna do this.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. Okay, you do this.
This is where she goes into the little meeting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Diversity mixer.
No. She goes to... Wait.
First the diversity mixer,
Okay, yeah,
and then
first.
the coffee shop
Okay,
apology.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she attempts to throw a diversity mixer and decides, you know what? I'm going to teach everybody about what race is like. And so she sorts people into groups based on arbitrary traits. This one specifically was blood type. And she's like, does anybody else around you look like you? No. Race is the same as blood type. It literally doesn't matter. And then the captain from the... I believe it was the captain.
Yeah, it was the captain.
From, in quotes, the zoo, Northern Tech, steps forward and says, actually, it does matter. I am treated differently because of this. I live this every day. And, as a completely reasonable, well thought out individual, what was her name again?
Frankie?
Frankie says, I think we should just move past it. And so they have a disagreement and everybody leaves. And
Yeah, and it was like, this is something too. Like, okay, back to Goldie and Lola, who were super complicit in this, spouting off microaggressions left and right. During this mixer, Northern Tech takes issue with being told, hey, we're all just blood bags. It's cool, right?
yeah.
So then, Northern Tech tries to talk to her, and then Goldie says, well, maybe she's getting to a point. Okay. And then Frankie just says, so actually, like, we're not all that different. And then Lola says, oh my gosh, you're a genius. And I was like, oh my god, this is so tone deaf. This whole team needs, like HR or something.
Well,
for everything that's happened so far. Okay, so that doesn't work, and Shay's like, I think you need to just quit the team because that went terribly. And Frankie's like, nope. I don't run away from my mistakes. And it's like, we're not asking you to run away. They're literally asking for you to take accountability, which is the opposite, but okay. Don't run from it.
mm.
Instead, she calls all of Northern Tech, and Northern Tech is so done with Frankie that I genuinely believe, were it not for, like, the fact that this being a TV show, they would not have come to this gathering. Because they're all set on one side of the table. So it's literally one against the whole team, Frankie being the one. And one girl has her camera ready from beginning because she knows that Frankie's going to do something ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, but, we'll try. We'll give her the benefit of the doubt. Let's see what she has to say. And she says, look, it wasn't racist because everyone calls you the zoo, and that's why we depicted you as animals. And then we learn that is not their team name. We learn, no, racist jerks call us the zoo because we're a poor, crime-ridden area. And it's like, oh, well, that certainly doesn't make things look much better for Frankie, does it? And she's like, basically...
Well...
Then...
I want to give a little bit of credit to Frankie at this moment, because she does say she owns up to something, and that's that she didn't know. However,
okay, that's fair.
Yeah, she deserves credit for saying, "Okay, look, I didn't know about that. I'm sorry," but then she just throws money at them and is like, "Now we understand each other," and acts like it's done.
And it's really important, too, because, at that point, she really just, kind of shot herself in the foot. Because when she says she doesn't know, and she's like, I'm really sorry about that, but, I don't see the thing. And then Northern Tech Captain...
She specifically says, I'm sorry you were offended, which was the thing that everyone gets upset at later.
Oh, yeah. She says, I'm sorry you were offended. And then Northern Tech Captain is about to say something, but Frankie's alarm goes off, and she's like, I'm really sorry, I have a game to get to. Here's some money. I think we really understand each other now. Okay, bye.
Mm.
And if she had just, skipped a game and sat down with these girls and continued to talk and listen to them, maybe she could have stayed on the team. But she goes back. She goes back to the bus that's loading up, and Shay won't let her on. Shay stops and says, look. She actually gives, a really good analogy, and, I don't think that this is, particularly new, but it just, hit me because, I don't know, I always get really frustrated when people are like, I'm sorry you were offended, but I never really knew how to explain the feeling. But she says, that's me shooting you in the leg and saying, sorry you got blood on your pants.
Yeah, it's a very apt way of putting it.
And I was like, yeah, that is how it feels.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then she calls a vote, and now the whole volleyball team has completely turned against Frankie. No one calls for these girls to be accountable at all. She's definitely a scapegoat right now, which is if you want to make a point about scapegoats, which the show just doesn't make, but she is now the scapegoat, and nobody else needs to learn about why it was wrong. No, it could have even been fixed if Goldie has, or Lola, if anybody on the team has a moment where they're whoa, I didn't realize how messed up it was that we just followed you along with this. One of us should have been better and said, hey, maybe we could do a different prank.
Yeah.
But nobody ever does that. And I'm not even really, necessarily disappointed in anybody's complicity in the poster, because I think everyone was acting out of ignorance. Nobody thought anything racist about it. They just thought, well, that's, okay, that's something we should talk about, too. What exactly, if your team is the zoo, and we think that's it, you're the zoo, we make this poster, we hang it up in your school, what exactly is the prank if it's not racist? Is it pretty girls don't like to be called ugly animals? Maybe?
You know what? That's a good point.
Now that I think about that, what exactly is the prank if it's not racist?
Yeah, they're literally just drawing them a school banner if it isn't supposed to be racist.
Yeah, if this wasn't supposed to get into race relations, then I guess they'd just be take selfies with it and be thanks, Degrassi, can't wait to play you.
Yeah.
You guys are such good sports.
Yeah, no, that's actually a really, really good point, because I never even realized that. It's they're yeah, let's prank them. And they basically, in their minds, create a friendly poster that's like, yeah, well, actually, no, because I think Lola is like, yeah, it looks just like her. So it's very clear that they're going for, like, the ugliness thing.
Yeah.
But it's like, I guess they're trying to make them look like ugly animals, and then Lola says another terribly racist microaggression and says it looks just like her. I just did quotes there, but you can't see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never really factored that in. And, like, nobody even says that. They just keep saying it wasn't meant to be racist. But, okay, what was it meant to be? Because I don't see anything else it could be.
Yeah.
So, she gets voted off the team. Nobody likes her anymore. That's that. But now a new thing is happening. They're kind of having a little Black Lives Matter light episode, for lack of a better way to describe it. Tiny is the other black character in the show. This is so dumb. Okay. Not that they're protesting, but just like the catalyst for all this is a very silly and contrived. Lola has Tinder for teens on Degrassi.
Yeah, very
And
very wise choice of naming and premise there.
yeah. She likes to use it to get unsuspecting boys to buy her lunch. And Tiny, who is her boyfriend, doesn't like that. And he says, like, we're gonna date, I don't want you, like, flirting with other guys, even if it gets me a slice of pizza. Who would have thought?
Right.
Monogamy is more important than pizza to him. So in the end, she cancels the app, but this guy who she had solicited for pizza, I don't know how else to word it, but he gets the wrong idea, and he brings the pizza to the school and is like, hey, so you ready to go eat this pizza with me? And she's like, ew, no, you're just supposed to give me pizza. And he's like, oh, you hussy. So then Tiny punches him. Well, I don't think Tiny punches it. First, Tiny is like, back off, and then that guy starts the fight, kind of. I don't think violence was necessary, but I don't really ever feel that way. So, that's just me. But anyway, he gets suspended, and Lola feels that it was unfair because he was just trying to protect her. Okay. Then she starts talking to some other students, and they're like, hey, yeah. Also, two of the students she's talking to about this are Tiny's best friends. And they're definitely Team Tiny, but they're also like, yeah, it's messed up. They bring up it's messed up that Tiny gets suspended for this, but Frankie Hollingsworth still gets to go to school because even though she's racist. And Lola even says, well, she got kicked off the team, so, like, and people are like, that's, like, doesn't go on her permanent record, like a suspension does, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so then, and, like, that's fair, too. So now it's become this issue of, like, white privilege. One thing it's kind of complicated. Not complicated, but it's like Tiny says, like, hey, I don't want you guys protesting about me, because if it gets into a big thing, like, you'll have your story, but, like, the other side will have theirs, and, like, they'll put pictures of me and maybe my brother who's currently in jail right now. And he just doesn't want that kind of attention. He just wants to focus on, like, finishing out his suspension, going back to school, getting good grades, and, like, just being a good boy. Basically. But then Lola tries to stop the protest, and now the protest has gotten bigger than Tiny. Like, he's, I guess, the face of this, but it's a bigger issue. The zero tolerance policy affects more black students than white students, and like more black girls than white girls, etc., etc. So it's gotten away from, so they're protesting. And then back to Frankie. So Degrassi's having an alumni thing, so if you watch The Next Generation, you'll see a lot of familiar faces. You won't see Drake, though they do reference him like twice. Not Drake, but his character Jimmy. I was really kind of low-key hoping he would just show up. He did, his music video for I'm Upset was also kind of like a mini Degrassi reunion. Had a lot of characters from that show, so I kind of thought maybe he still would pop in or something, but I don't know. He started rapping towards the end, like his character started rapping on the show, so he could have come and done a rap song, and someone could have made a Drake joke. Like, oh, he sounds just like that one rapper. Okay, anyway, back to racism.
Back to race. Back to discussing race. Hashtag discuss race. Let's discuss race.
Yes.
Yeah, so... Oh, man. What happened? So the alumni, all these alumni are coming. And, alright.
Maya, if you remember from our feminist episode, Maya, she can't sing. And this is something else. I like all these, like, hashtag fake woke. Am I right? Because Maya lost her voice and she can't sing. And then Jonah's like, oh, what if my girlfriend just does it? And, like, no, Maya doesn't have a problem with it being Frankie. So then she's rehearsing with Peter and Sav from the previous generation of Degrassi. And they sing the Degrassi school song. It's just a school song. It's fine. But then Frankie is like, well, did I sing okay? Was it good? And they're like, yeah, like you sang fine. They're like, is it good enough for people to forgive my big mistake good? And they're like, well, what was your mistake? And then she explains that she is the Frankie Hollingsworth. And Sav takes off his guitar, puts it down, and he's like, oh, I can't perform with you. I might get tagged in a picture with you, and then it looks like I support you. And then Peter says, yeah.
I want to get into politics.
Yeah, he's going to get into politics. And then Peter says, yeah, I just got this new job, and I work with a lot of black guys, so no. And I'm like, okay, I think this is really interesting. Neither man denounces what she did.
Yeah,
they just
care about the image, yeah.
Which I was like, okay, that's also, I guess, saying something not great about them as people, right? But, okay, bye. They're done being on the show now. And then she sees all the protesters. Oh, by the way, Lola got Tiny on board, which was kind of a weird, cute scene. I don't know. She sits Tiny down because Tiny's like, hey, I thought you were going to call off this protest. And she was like, I was, but like no one was listening. And like I tried to talk to Simpson about it.
Oh,
anyway, she's trying, yeah.
Can I do this
and
part?
Then, yeah, please.
Yeah, so Lola sits down with Tiny and is like, you know, I've done a little bit of research, and I think that I don't know how to say this. People might treat you differently because of your race. And then he replies, you think? And she goes, you knew? And he's just like, you know, laughing at her and everything. And they go and take up a sign.
Yeah.
She is like, unfiltered, raw, smooth brain energy for the entire show, as far as I'm aware. Which, like, has me torn, because on one hand, I really love the smooth brain energy. I aspire to that. I feel like people who live like that are, like, really, really happy. But then on the other hand, it's just so painful to watch.
like, she is so blissfully unaware of, like, everything. But the fact, like, and I was so confused because at one point earlier with Frankie, when they're still, like, talking about, like, her role in this, they're talking about prejudice, and then Lola even mentions, like, I'm from Argentina, and, like, even in the Sod arc, she mentions that, like, people made fun of her and called her Dora the Explorer because she didn't learn English until she was 5. And okay, but why are you, like, surprised that racism is a thing and that, like, biases are a thing? It's just so, I don't know, maybe my problem is more the inconsistency than anything else with all these characters. They're just... Okay, so... Back to Frankie. She sees everybody protesting, and so they have, like, hashtag Free Tiny, Black Lives Matter, but then they also have posters that, like, have Frankie's face and saying, like, white privilege. And so she's like, oh no. And she runs into Spinner and Paige, 2 other former alumni of the show. And he's like, oh, you're the girl from that sign outside. Which, like, okay. And she's, like, about to just call it quits and leave before she does the song alone. I don't know why Peter and Sav didn't, because she was like, you guys do the song, I'll just quit. And they're like, no, you're still a student here, you should do it. Why?
Yeah,
why not try to
they did go to school here.
And also, like, okay, but there's other students. Jonah could sing the dumb song.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he sings. You could just do a little boy band moment.
They also say that they need a female vocal, but the vocal is, like, completely unisex in every regard. There's no, like, pronouns you use. There's not. It's just a school anthem.
Yeah, like, I really can't think of another song. But it's basically like Take Me Out to the Ball Game, but Degrassi. So I don't know why it has to be a girl singing the song. Yeah. So anyway, Paige and Spinner give her this, like, weird advice. And they're like, if you're gonna make mistakes, Degrassi's the place to do it. And, like, we've messed up more times than you can count. Nod to people who remember our time on the show. But I'm like, okay, but, like, literally neither of you guys were ever really racist. Spinner mentions that he got his best friend shot. And, like, that wasn't really a race thing. That was just a bad move. Because Jimmy was a star of the basketball team, really popular, and him and Rick actually started to be friends. But Spinner poured yellow paint and, like, feathers on him, on Rick. And then they saw that he was in the bathroom and they were laughing about it. And so then they just, like, casually said, man, Jimmy had such a great idea having us do this. Ha, ha, ha. I believe Spinner and Jimmy weren't actually that close of friends at the time. I think they had some sort of falling out. Anyway, Rick was a school shooter in that famous episode. You could probably Google it and see the clips of it. Anyway, that's what he's talking about. No one started a social movement against him. They just stopped talking to him, and he was also expelled until they let him back on. Yeah, I don't know what the comparison really is. They also don't really give her any practical advice. They just say, don't run away from your problems. And this is the place to make mistakes. I can't really think of anything less helpful than that.
Yeah. Did we touch on what happened when she was singing the song?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so she does end up singing the song. And then do you want to do that?
Yeah, so, she goes up on stage, she sings the song, and she's, like, very visibly nervous. And then outside, Lola is running she's leading a protest. And the police come and push the protester back and say, you gotta be quiet, and you gotta stay off the road, and you can't be on school property. You have to do it over the street. And so Lola's like, well, this is unfair. They won't hear our message. And then somebody's like, here, Lola says, here, I've got an idea. She takes a big projector and points it through the window and displays messages like, racism lives here. Stop silencing our students and stuff like that. While, wow, I keep forgetting her name, Frankie. While Frankie is singing, and Frankie sees this, immediately just is filled with, like, shock and horror and runs off stage. And, then the protest storms in, like, we've done a great job.
Yeah, it was really weird. So basically, Tristan, like, side note, Tristan's school president, he keeps trying to, like, this is the alumni's night. We don't need to worry about the protest now, even though some of the alumni have joined the protest. A lot of them actually did. And so he finally just lets them in, and Lola says, I led a protest today, and I love Degrassi, but Degrassi could still be better. And, like, we need to talk about racism, so let's talk about it. Okay, bye.
Yeah.
It was really weird. It was very strange that her last sentence was, let's talk about racism, and then she leaves the stage.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I guess it'd be weird if there was just, like, a 20-minute round table discussion with the various alumni, and that was just the end of the episode, but you did say let's talk. Anyway, so then they leave, and then Principal Simpson's finally like, okay, I still feel like the zero tolerance policy was fairly used, but we'll have a student committee look at it and see what we think about it. And it's like, okay, yay, we fixed it. Racism's over in Degrassi. Until season 4 when Saud's whole deal happens. But it's fine. And one thing, Frankie now is like, I'm not going back to Degrassi. The episode ends with her leaving and Jonah trying to talk some sense into her, but she's like, no, it's too late. Everybody hates me. And we forgot to mention, but people, I've like never really had this sort of like bullying. I've never seen this like out in the wild in real schools. Bad nicknames like this that plague people, but the nicknames because Frankie is racist. That's the narrative going around the school. They give her nicknames like Halling Racist instead of Hollingsworth, which is like, okay, that's real clunky. But they also coined Ku Klux Fran, which
honestly, I love that.
I kind of, yeah, like, that one, I think that's the one that stuck. I don't know why she even mentioned Hollings Racist, because that's just real clunky and not very good. But Ku Klux Fran is unfortunate, because she doesn't feel like a racist. But as far as nicknames go, that's a pretty good one. Anyway, so next we see, this is, like, basically how it wraps up. And this, I want to be clear, this is the whole of season 2. Like, has little things going on, but this is the big thing we've been following. Everything else is kind of episodic this season. So, Frankie convinces her boyfriend, I need to run away, I need to get out of here. So he takes her to, like, a hotel. But then she overhears him talking with his mom, and he's like, look, I just rented this hotel for the night so she can clear her head. I'm hoping to talk some sense into her by morning, and then we'll be back home. And she gets really mad, and she drives off. Her tire goes flat. And she can't change her tire. But then a car pulls up behind her, and a black man comes out, and she immediately locks her door. And he asks her to roll down her window, and she does. And he's like, is your tire flat? I can help you change it.
Also,
and she says, oh, yeah.
I just want to say, why weren't her doors locked to begin with? I thought that cars, automatically locked their doors while you're driving.
I mean, I guess because she had just gotten back in from trying to change it and failing herself.
Maybe, yeah.
But either way, they just need to do that. At first, I forgot what she did when we were rewatching, and I thought she was going to roll up her windows or something, because I did assume they'd probably already be locked, too. But, anyway. Then, she's like, no, I'm fine. And then he's like, okay, if you're sure. But then she calls him back, and she's like, actually, please help me. And he's like, sure. And he helps her change her tire, and she goes home. And her mom... One day, I guess we will have to talk about this, but I do not like the Hollingsworth mom of the show, because every time there's an issue, I feel she goes about literally everything in the worst way. And I think it's weirder that she's written as, like, a good, well-meaning mother, which I'm not saying maybe she's not that she's not well-meaning, I guess, like, the bare minimum way you can be well-meaning. But her daughter ran away from home because she's being bullied. There's no question of, like, why did you do this? It's just like, what were you thinking? You had us worried. Obviously, you're grounded. Okay, I'm glad you're home safe. Bye. And I was like, okay, well, that conversation went nowhere. I guess we know why Frankie is the way she is. Because nobody knows how to talk about anything in this household. But then she has a heart-to-heart with her brother. And she says, I just keep thinking about why I locked the door. And then Miles says, it's complicated. She says, no, I'm done making excuses. And like, okay, great. So we basically wrapped it up. The only last thing is whether or not Shay will forgive Frankie. And basically everybody, including Goldie, including Lola, including the whole volleyball team that disavowed Frankie just episodes ago. They're like, but she's like a really good player, and we've been on this losing streak ever since she left the team, so we should just like have her back. And it's like, okay. And then Shay kind of like isn't really mad at her anymore. I don't think Shay was really ever mad at Frankie. She was just like, you need to seriously think about what you're doing, and I can't hold your hand through this.
She does get angry when
she
gets angry when Frankie starts to get more and more defensive, and particularly after the coffee shop meeting, she says, maybe I was wrong about you, because she
that's true, she does say that. But I do feel like, I guess I never felt that it was like, I never thought that their friendship was unmendable. You know? Like, I feel like Shay, it wasn't so much like, I can't believe I've been friends with this bigoted racist all my life, I hate you and I'm never going to talk to you again. It was more like, to me, I took it more as like, look, you need to just own up to what you did, and I can't hold your hand through this, so work it out yourself, bye for now.
Yeah.
And that's basically how it kind of pans out, because then she comes over to talk, and Frankie, I don't know why shows do this, like, to make an apology, like, mean more, it's like, I wrote this down. And I was thinking, like, okay, so, but she only made 4 points, and it was literally, like, 4 sentences long. I don't know why. She runs to go get her laptop to bring it back to Shay so she could read this. And the apology wasn't bad, it's just weird that she couldn't just, like, remember this. She says, like, I realize now that what I did was racist. I need to be better. I'm sorry for hurting you and Northern Tech. And, like, I want to be friends again. I hope you can forgive me, is basically all she said. And, like, yeah, like, it's good she finally owns up to the fact that the poster was racist. She doesn't bring up any excuse. She doesn't say, even though I didn't mean for it to be racist, it was racist. Just, like, it was racist. And it's like, great, good. And Shay forgives her. They talk. She joins the volleyball team again, and they say they're going to take it one game at a time. That she sent an apology out to everybody, saying that she's trying to work on being better, and game by game, if they're like, hey, we're not going to play if you're here, then she'll just sit out the game. And then they could just keep playing. So she's basically forgiven by everybody, and she's agreed to be an alternate player on the team.
Which is
So
it took way more material than it needed to, but that's a trend with Degrassi, isn't it?
yeah, it's such a roundabout way of just. So okay, let's to wrap up. Just talk about like how this arc I think could have been better,
Right.
and I feel like. Well, you start.
Well, I think that one of the main things was that at the very, very beginning, hold on, I feel, okay, sorry, I felt something weird in my throat there for a sec. From the very beginning of all of this drama, the Hollingsworth, the Degrassi team were saying their team is literally called the Zoo. And they don't bring this up until she has the cafe meeting alone that lasts literally less than a minute. And I feel like if they had brought that up way earlier, she might have actually learned something about the struggles of that school. But it's not even that she didn't bring it up. It's that they knew that was like one of their main reasons for doing this. It was that they were that everybody called them the zoo, so they were like, okay, we'll draw them all as zoo animals. And then they just forget that excuse all the way until the cafe episode. The convenient moment where it makes everything worse.
Yeah, yeah. Also, I think for me, one thing that could have like saved it, because honestly, Frankie taking this, people get defensive. People don't like to admit that they're wrong. I can buy all of that, and like the fact that it took this long, and the fact that everybody basically telling her the same thing over and over again didn't hit until she actually was like sort of faced with her own internal racism. When she was like, wait, why did I lock the door automatically? And so then that's what it took for her to look. I'm fine with basically all of that as a journey to figuring it out. I don't know. That sounds right to me. But what I don't get is just why the show feels like it's okay for the whole volleyball team to join in the racism, spout off microaggressions left and right to Shay and without Shay present, but then only Frankie is the racist. I just cannot. That, I feel, is what makes this whole thing super disconnected.
Yeah.
Like, you can't.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, yeah, like when Lola starts a protest, at least if you could preface it with her realizing, like, yeah, you know, like helping draw that thing. Like, I didn't think about it at the time, but like, I don't know, something. She could have thought of something.
And straight
But
up
she
calling
didn't.
the black team criminal lookalikes. Like,
Yeah, she said, like, they're scary, they look like criminals, no offense, Shay.
yeah. That is,
And Shay asks, why would I be offended?
yeah.
And they don't answer her.
That is the most frustrating part about this entire arc, is that they just forget everything that the entire rest of the volleyball team has done, except Shay, who wasn't involved, and Frankie, who was literally just used as the scapegoat. And everyone else doesn't...
Yeah.
Nobody else learns anything.
Yeah, it's also, like, weird, too. But, like, you know, Degrassi, kind of, the whole show is mostly, like, we mostly focus on the students. There was a time, like, in the older series where they did focus on the adults a bit more. But it's become mostly, like, a student-run kind of a show. Okay, fine. Like, that's kind of how it goes now. Nobody cares about what the adults are doing. But it is, I feel, worth at least noting that the volleyball team is coached by a black man. Is he... And he just sort of... It seems like they just sort of govern themselves. Like, he doesn't even seem to have a problem with the other students sitting them out. He doesn't seem to have a problem with Frankie staying on the team. Like, he has no say in any of this, and I'm not saying that he automatically should have just condemned Frankie, but it's weird that he does not have a line at all this season. except for, like, Shay is yelling at Frankie about, why did you make this thing? I told you not to prank them. I told you this was stupid. Why did you do that? And he just says, go to the locker room and work this out for yourselves. Wouldn't you at least want to know, like, why? I don't know. That was just interesting to me. And yeah, I think ultimately this whole thing could have just been handled with a little more care, especially if you're going to insist on stretching it out for the whole season.
Yeah. I think that Sachs also made the observation that whenever a white cast member has an issue, the show focuses on them for a lot longer and puts them in a lot more scenes. But when it's a character like Sard or any other minority character, they kind of get like a little bit of an episode, and then they get shoved to the side for like 3 episodes, and then they get brought back and then it's done, and they never bring them up again.
Yeah. It was, yeah, because, like, especially, like, for these, just to do, like, a review, we just sort of, like, skim through, like, just, like, the parts relevant to this. And when we did our SOD video, I was, like, skimming through, like, episode after episode just to see when he showed up again.
Yeah.
But I didn't have, like, for this, just rewatching it, like, we basically just watched season 2 of Degrassi.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's possible that we miss things with these episodes because we do skim through them to just get to go through the meat. Yeah, the meat of the arc, but yeah, it is it is kind of funny, yeah, that like the show acts so progressive, but they maybe not consciously, you know, make a lot of the same mistakes that they accuse other people of making and try to bring to light.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of teen shows in general kind of fall into this whole, like, ripped from the headlines style of plot lines. Plot threads, like, people are mad, and we're not going to talk about, like, why. Let's just show that people are mad.
Yeah, it's really, really frustrating as well, because the way that Degrassi handles its episodes is it's very, like, kitchen sink. It's like whatever is happening at the moment, they just put all of it in to an episode, and then, like, none of it really, like, they focus on little bits of it in, like, a high concept fashion, a little bit at a time, but then it's just like one thing after another, and then they, like, pause all of them and, like, shove them forward in time again after introducing new issues, and so it takes a really, really long time to actually get through an issue that could just take an episode.
Yeah. Like, yeah, no, that pretty much sums everything up. I guess on that note, we can wrap up.
Yeah. Should I plug?
Link? Oh, yeah.
My GoFundMe recently hit 3K, around Christmas. Links to it below if you want to help me get the other 3K I need for the deposit. Thank you so much for considering and watching us and listening this far.
Yeah. Thank you, Aaron, for coming on and dishing about race with me.
No problem. As a white Australian, it's my honor.
Lovely. And thank you guys for listening, and remember to comment, like, and subscribe because we all need friends. Okay, bye.
Bye.